Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and begin. So welcome everybody who's in the Zoom session, and if you're in the lounge, welcome to you too. We are here today to talk about another company, an exciting company. The name is Preply, and they are an online language marketplace which is looking for tutors to tutor people in English language and other languages. And it's an exciting opportunity. So let's go ahead and get started. Preply is a global learning marketplace. They have 30,000 plus tutors teaching languages and tutoring languages to students from all over the world. One of the good things about the company is 100% remote, which means you can work as a tutor from your home or wherever you're located. And currently they're looking for tutors who can tutor in English, so English language tutors, and then also tutors in other languages. I'm showing a list here: Spanish, French, German, Italian, Chinese, Arabic, Portuguese, Japanese, but there's even more. If you happen to be competent in another language, that opportunity also exists. As we get into the session today, Alice Capella from Preply, she's the tutor development lead, will be sharing information about the company and about the roles that they're currently looking to fill. She herself has tons of experience teaching foreign language. She's done so for 12 years. She studied that, and she has certifications in teaching the English language and teaching English languages to adults. She herself is the director at Preply for helping the tutors with their own professional development, sponsoring tutor conferences for the team of tutors. So she's got a wealth of information to share with you about the company and about the opportunities. What we'd like to do is keep everybody muted while Alice shares the information. And once she's done, we'll go ahead and unmute the lines and give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might still have. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Alice.
Thank you very much, Judy, and thank you for having me here today. It's lovely to see everybody. So hello, wherever you are. So yes, as Judy said, my name is Alice, and I'm the tutor development lead at Preply, which means that I work with tutors to help onboard them on Preply, so understand how the platform works, from what is the philosophy behind it to which buttons do I need to click to take certain actions. And then my team is also responsible for professional development. So we do all of the support side for the tutors in terms of making them successful. So I'm hoping to give you a bit of an overview that hopefully will be useful for you. And then I welcome any and all questions about Preply, and hopefully I'll be able to answer. So as Judy said, Preply is a marketplace. This means that technically Preply is not an employer. Preply is a platform where a tutor would go and promote and advertise their tutor profile, and students will come and they will be able to use filters and badges to choose the best tutor for them. This does mean that we're not employees. It's a matter of being an independent contractor. So it's a little bit different from other jobs in that, there's pros and cons. Teachers on Preply are very happy about the flexibility that the platform gives them, the idea of being their own bosses, because you can choose your own price per hour, you can choose your own hours, you're in charge of every aspect of your tutoring and of your business. But it does mean that you have to figure out how to do your own taxes, because Preply, as not an employer, the student pays Preply, and then Preply gives you the money for the tutoring that has happened, but there is no support from a tax point of view. So Preply basically gives services both to students and to tutors. So to tutors, we give a lot of support in terms of how to get started, both in terms of specifically on Preply, where do I click and what do I do and how am I successful, but also in teaching in general. So maybe here there are people who are language teachers or people who were never language teachers. So there's a lot of support on Preply if one wants it. In terms of teacher training and teacher professional development. So for example, you might have heard of relatively expensive TEFL courses, teaching English as a foreign language courses that one can do to start teaching. And we have courses that have similar content. They're not accredited, but they are free so that they can give you support on how to get started and lots of other support, like how do I make sure that my profile stands out of the 30,000 teachers that we've seen Judy tell us about. How do I make it so my students stay with me for longer? What materials can I use? And these sort of things. So as I was saying, on Preply, you are your own boss and that you're an independent contractor. So you choose your own hourly rate. And choosing that is quite tricky. But what you can do, and this is an exercise that you can do even before you think seriously about joining Preply, is go into preply.com as if you were a student and look at the prices of the tutors that are similar to you. So you can use filters to filter for different types of qualifications or specialities, or maybe if you think that you would be able to help students who need to understand people with your regional speech or accent, you can filter for country of birth or country of residence. So you find people who are similar to you and you kind of see where their price range is, and it varies wildly depending on the characteristics of the tutor. So you choose your own hourly rate, you choose your own availability. One thing that you might be thinking about, maybe if you do have other jobs, most teachers on Preply, I would say, have other jobs. Preply is a very good way of supplementing your income, although there are also plenty of teachers who are full-time on Preply. One thing to keep in mind is that the more time you have available on the platform, the more visible your profile is going to be for students, because it means that it's going to be easier for prospective students to find a suitable time with you. So maybe it's not super worth joining Preply if you're only going to have 1 or 2 hours a week available, but if you can already open up more, that will be more interesting. But then you decide, once you get 2 or 3 students, and once you get to the hours that you want to be teaching, you can then hide your profile, or you can reduce your availability and basically say, this is what I want, and you don't necessarily have to be getting more students after that. So yeah, in basically it being a marketplace, the way Preply makes money is that Preply takes a commission on the payment that the students make. And that commission model is 100% on the first lesson every new student does. And then after that, it depends on how many total hours you have taught on the platform. So it could be from 33% to 18%, which is lowest band. And in return for that commission, you get the exposure to millions of students. And I don't know exactly how many we have, and if I'm allowed to say. And you get secure payment that goes through Preply. You get ways to communicate with a student without having to give your personal contact details. You get digital classroom for free that is basically like Zoom, but way better because it is designed to teach languages. Your students get lots of email reminders and pushes from Preply to continue learning, and lots of other little benefits, including things like the conference that we do once a year for tutors, and other ways of making human contact as well, because teaching can be a bit isolating to begin with, and teaching online even more so. So through communities and conferences and events, we try and keep in touch with people. I don't know whether this is a good time to start taking some questions, perhaps.
Sure, let's go ahead. Are there any questions? I think Janice has a question. Janice?
Did I freeze?
Well, let me go ahead and ask you, what are the type of things that really make somebody successful as a tutor on the platform?
Yes, it's a good question. It really depends because there are so many different types of students that end up on preply.com looking for a tutor that it depends on what type of student is looking at your profile. So you have people who are trying to prepare for school exams, for example, so they might be looking for someone who is more familiar with the structure of the language and who has the experience, expertise to really guide people through how to improve for the specific exam. But there are also lots of students who either just want to have a conversation and improve the conversational ability in the language, or perhaps they're moving to a country where the language is spoken. And in these situations, it's still generally not just a chat, because you want to correct errors, you want to give feedback and lots of things that we give support on. But for those tutors, it's also about the rapport and the personality and these sort of aspects. In general, it's about passion, and it's about, I would say, also being humble about, I am an Italian native speaker and I don't know anything about the Italian grammar. So also having that will and eagerness to go and learn yourself before you go and teach, or after you found out that you were trying to teach something and you didn't exactly know what it was, which happens.
Great. Lori has a question. She wants to know, what are the minimum qualifications for tutors?
That's a good question. So there are no minimum qualifications. There is no requirement. Basically, the application process would be, you would go to teachonpreply.com. I don't know what the link is, Claire. And you would go through an application process where you are asked if you have any qualifications or any university degrees or anything like that. But everybody gets a shot at Preply. And as I said, we do have so much professional development material after you are approved as a tutor that it is possible to then basically reach that same level of expertise after you have been approved.
And as far as the approval process itself is concerned, what's involved in that? What would make somebody not approved?
Good questions. I think the number one thing that would get someone not approved is not reading all of the guidance and tips that are given on the page when you are going through the process. So paramount is to really take in and read everything that is available on the pages as you go through the application process. So get a cup of tea and give it a good 20 minutes, half an hour, and you'll have to do it just once instead of having to do it 3 times. So the process is as follows. You sign up and you give us some general details, and then the big ones really that are going to take a little bit of time are uploading a nice picture of yourself and making sure that it follows all of the guidelines, because everything is manually checked by a human being at Preply, who is responsible to decide whether the profile can go live or not. So for example, if the picture is not just you, but it's you and a friend, the team is going to have to not reject immediately the application, but is going to have to email you to say, please, can you change the picture? And that might start taking a little bit of time. The second one that will take a bit of time is your description. And so you're invited to write your bio, your description. So a little bit of information about yourself, a bit of information about what type of tutoring you're able to give, what you think your teaching style might be. And then basically a call to action to ask students to start booking that first lesson with you. And for that, I really recommend going to look at descriptions from other tutors that are at the top of the search results in your subject, because you can basically see what they're doing and what is successful. And the one that is going to take the longest, depending on who you are, it took me the longest, is going to be take a video, an introduction video. And you do this through the webcam of your computer as you're doing the application. And basically it has to be minimum 30 seconds, but really 1 minute, 1 minute 30 is a little bit better. And you just want to introduce yourself and The students will watch the video for two reasons. One, first of all, to understand whether they're going to understand you when you speak to them. It's very important to them to know that when you speak, they'll be able to understand and reply. And number two, to see if there's a connection, to see if they can see themselves spending an hour with you every week. And after that, there's a bunch of other little questions, but those are the three main things. And when you're through with that, yeah, the team will manually check all of the information you've given. And when everything is fine, your profile will be live and you'll have access to all the support we were talking about.
A couple of things there. So you mentioned the sessions were an hour. Are all the sessions 1 hour in length? Or can they be shorter or longer? Or how does that work?
Good question. So all of they are called trial lessons. So when a student has their first lesson with a teacher and they want to see if they click, that is called a trial lesson. And all trial lessons are 1 hour in length, sometimes 50 minutes, so don't quote me, but they're supposed to be an hour. And after that is complete flexibility. So it could be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. I think the maximum is 5.5. But you could just continue stacking them with students and do 24 hours in a row if you wanted to, yes.
So the tutor sets the duration of the session?
So after your student has decided that the trial went well, they would buy a subscription. And so they can decide, so they pay monthly and they can decide, okay, I want 1 hour a week or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours a week with this tutor. Okay. And then you as a tutor, you have an availability calendar that the student can look at and they can book their own lessons in your available hours without having to contact you. So you can do that. And some other tutors, they prefer to talk about the schedule and the timetable in class with the student, and they can schedule the lessons as well. So either works.
And Lori has another question, and it's a good one too. It's how does Preply measure a tutor's success?
It is a very good question. Basically, everything that we can do to decide whether a tutor is making the students happy, which translates to making the students improve and make progress and be happy with the service that they're getting from the tutor. So these are things like, for example, when someone has a trial lesson with you, they decide to continue learning with you and they buy a subscription. Or when a tutor, when a student buys 1 month subscription, the subscription renews and continues renewing, and the student doesn't cancel it after 2 months because they're not happy anymore. And then there's also softer metrics, let's say, so things like the reviews that the students leave for the tutors, either the public ones or Preply actually asks students to rate the lesson after each lesson. And so we have tons and tons of data about how happy the students are after each lesson and in general with the tutor. And all of these are used also to do things like, for example, now we're giving some tutors the super tutor badge, like an Airbnb, you can get the super host badge. So that's a combination of those elements, as well as never being late or not always being late, always turning up for class and things like that.
I know some sites have like a rating, a 5-star rating, or some other indicator like that. Does Preply also do that?
Yeah, so the students are invited to leave reviews of their tutors. And so when you go on Preply as a student looking for a tutor, you would see their average star rating. But you're able to reply to reviews as well. So if you ever think that you got a review that maybe you disagreed with, you can always go ahead and reply to give context to new users.
And just for clarification purposes, are your students adults or are they children?
They are adults. The parents are able to purchase hours for minors down to a certain age. For this reason, there is support available on how to teach young adults and young people, especially online, which is a completely different dynamic as face-to-face. So we do provide support for it, but we don't advertise Preply as a platform teaching children.
And does the tutor, like if somebody wants to purchase services for a child versus an adult, is the tutor aware of that ahead of time?
So that's a good question. There's always a difficult balance between allowing the students enough flexibility that you increase the chances of the tutor getting new students and getting subscriptions and basically being successful, but also allowing the tutor to have the information they need in order to do their job, and potentially also in order to reject students they don't want to be teaching. For example, I have never taught anyone below the age of 13, and if a parent got lessons for their 9-year-old kid, I would probably panic. So Preply pushes and does everything that they can to ask the student, please get in touch with your tutor and give them information. Unfortunately, sometimes it does happen that the student doesn't do this, and then you turn up and it is a 9-year-old kid. But in those situations, it happens, and it's about being professional and explain, unfortunately, I'm not the right person for this, and maybe help someone else, another tutor who might be suitable.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the subscriptions? They sign up for a 1 month at a time, is that correct? Is that the minimum amount that somebody can sign up for? Is it like one hour every week for a month? Or can they do it just for a couple of weeks?
I think that this is a good point to introduce the idea of Preply being an ed tech company. There's a lot of experimentation going on. So a month ago, I would have told you, yes, it is only for monthly subscriptions, but now we're actually experimenting to see if people would prefer to have yearly subscriptions. So paying everything in advance and with a bit of a discount or not, basically, we're always trying to optimize for what makes Preply the most money, which happens to be what makes the tutor and the teacher the most money, because Preply takes commission. So yeah, at the moment it's mostly monthly subscriptions, but yearly or semestral ones might come.
And do you know what the average duration is for a typical student? Is it like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months?
I'm not exactly sure. But I would also say that I'm not sure that that would be indicative of what the average duration would be for you as a tutor. So, for example, I specialize in teaching English for people who want to pass exams. So I always get students who need to pass their exams in 6 weeks. So my average is actually a lot shorter than someone who specializes in helping people with pronunciation or with conversation, for example. So averages here with such big numbers are not 100% useful sometimes.
Yeah, so it really depends on what the goal is of the person to whom you're tutoring. Okay. Are there any other questions that anybody has? This has been very informative, so thank you so much, Alice, for sharing the information about Preply and how it works and the opportunity for people to become language tutors.
My pleasure.
We have a few more minutes left and we can take a couple questions. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen again. And we can go ahead and I just want to thank you all for coming to today's session. If you would like more information about jobs or future events that we're going to be hosting on GetSetUp, please go to jobs.getsetup.com. On that site also, you will see a listing of jobs, among which are the Preply jobs, the 2 opportunities that we're focusing on here, the English tutor and then the other language tutor. And you can go ahead and click there and it will take you right into the Preply site to go ahead and apply. That's it on our end. So thank you all for attending. We really appreciate it and wish you all the best of luck. Thank you, Alice, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.